Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissia Duellum Final Fantasy video, and today I do want to have a little discussion here. By the way, just on a side note, I am working with a little bit of kind of rebranding and trying some new things out. My channel has really grown based on Final Fantasy and Dissia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, so I'm trying to rebrand more towards a Final Fantasy channel. Not that I still wouldn't cover other stuff. I think my channel would be pretty much unchanged that way, but I'm just trying some different things, so let me know what you think. Did a new little logo there, new little intro. I know it's going to be weird at first because you guys are so used to the old intro, but you can let me know what y'all think if you're getting like Final Fantasy vibes. That's kind of what I'm going for with the new intro there. So anyways, back to the task at hand here. So I wanted to do a little video. I know there isn't like a ton to talk about the new game yet after those initial reactions, but there is something that we can kind of look at in as a part of that initial video. They did talk about who are the next characters going to be, and they did do 6 silhouettes here. So I've done a little digging, kind of looked at my own opinions, things like that, and I think I've kind of deduced who these characters are, and I think a lot of you have probably figured out most of them, but there are some where I do see people debating on certain characters, so I have pulled up some maybe clarification images and things we can look at to make sure that we know who these characters are actually going to be, right? So before we look at these characters, let's talk about who we already know is in the game, right? We have 10 characters confirmed, and one thing you'll notice is every character revealed so far is from a different Final Fantasy. We currently have 10 revealed on the official website, and there are 6 here, which adds up to a perfect 16. So 16 characters. So what I'm thinking here, they're probably going to want to have one character from each game. So when we look at the guesses here, it's probably going to try to get representation for every game. So right now we have Warrior of Light for Final Fantasy 1, we have Kain for Final Fantasy 4, Kryl for 5, Terra for 6, Cloud for 7, Rinoa for 8, Zidane for 9, Lightning for 13, Gaia for 14, and Prompto for 15. So that leaves us with 6 characters here, and we need to find a character from Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 3, 10, 11, 12, and 16. So without further ado, let's hop into it. So when I initially looked at this, and we'll look at some other things, right? When I initially saw this guy in the front, I instantly got like Noctis vibes, but Noctis is from 15, who we already have Prompto. And when you think about it, it really makes a lot of sense for this to be Clive. Clive is a main protagonist character. He would be the main representative for Final Fantasy 16. And I will show some pictures here in a moment, kind of going over why I think this is probably more likely Clive than anything else. So my guess for this one's going to be Clive. A lot of people over here saw this one pretty easily. I think this is going to be Onion Knight. And we have to remember here that the characters are going to be in like street clothes, right? Like they're going to be different outfits. So this is clearly Onion Knight, and I guarantee he's just wearing like a baseball cap, right? Which is pretty good here. The thing here too with this being Clive, the reason why this threw me off at first is because like Noctis kind of wears more street clothes, so this like the body profile here fits Noctis a little bit better. But the thing is, Clive we're so used to seeing with heavy armor on, right, for adult Clive, and that's why this didn't jump out as Clive right away. But if you picture Clive, you put him in, you know, a button-up t-shirt or something, this is going to be his body profile, right? And the stance very much matches Clive as well, right? Back here, I 100% think this is Riku, and we can, you know, zoom in and see, but that's definitely like more Riku's hair bob. I've heard some people suggest Pain and even Yuna from 10-2, but I definitely think this is going to be Riku, and I'll show you guys why in a minute. People are guessing this is Balthier. That would be the Final Fantasy 12 representative. I definitely can agree with that. I'm a little confused though about the sword because Balthier typically has a gun. And when I looked up images, now I haven't played through 12 all the way, so somebody who's played through 12 can maybe hit me up in the comments and let me know if Balthier does appear with a sword in the game and how often that happens. But when I look up Balthier images online, like everything is him with a gun. And this is clearly a sword, right? But I do get Balthier vibes from that. But we'll talk about some other characters that maybe could be. When I look at Final Fantasy 12, I mean, it's definitely a male, right? It's not a female. So, I mean, that would rule out Ash. That would, you know, rule out, you know, any of the, you know, the bunny characters or whatever, right? So it's definitely like a human, and it's definitely a male. So, I mean, Balthier definitely fits, but maybe there's an odd chance that it could be Vaughn, even though that really doesn't look like Vaughn's head. We'll talk about that. For FF11, this definitely looks like it would be Aroha, right? Aroha seems like a good fit there. And this over here for Final Fantasy 2, I think this would clearly be Furion, right? So let's just look at a couple of things here and just kind of break down these characters for maybe people that are maybe unsure or still not confident on who some of these characters might be. So I do have some web images pulled up here. I just want to make sure I open the right thing here. So if we look here, this is Riku, right? The big thing with Riku is she does have like the hair up in a bob, whatever like that. But the big thing here is you look at her like hand here and she has like this claw on. And so this is the number one indicator for me. If we go into here, if there's any doubt that this would be Pain or somebody else, if you look here at Riku, I mean, this is clearly the claw right here. So to me, that is undeniable evidence that that has to be Riku. I am going to make a little side note here because obviously in my initial video, I was getting very excited about this probably being Riku. And I forgot that there are probably a lot of people watching that video that don't know my channel, don't know, maybe even never played Dissia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. There's some guy that made a super weird, like inappropriate content, like pretty much insulting me for getting too excited about Riku for whatever. He thought it was weird I was so excited about Riku. And it's not like I'm a big Riku fan or anything like this. There's kind of a Riku meme. So I'm going to explain this for people that aren't like familiar with the history of Riku in the Dissia series, right? So my channel mainly comes from Dissia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, which is the previous installment in the Dissia series. And the big thing with Riku is like a pretty main, like important character in Final Fantasy X and X-2. And DFFOO went for 6 years. And in the course of that 6 years, I believe it had over 150 characters, like a ton of characters, right? To the point where they're putting in like really oddball, like obscure characters. NPCs are becoming playable characters, like all kinds of craziness, right? But Riku never made it into the game in 6 years. And the reason why Riku is kind of a meme is Riku had artwork in the game's data since I believe it was year 1. It was pretty early. It might have been year 1 or year 2, but fairly early in the game's life cycle, Riku's had data in there. So the big thing in the DFFOO community is every time new characters were going to be announced, things like that, everyone's like, all right, this is Riku's time. Riku's finally coming. Here's Riku. And then Riku never came. Riku never made it to the game in the 6 years of Dissia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. So the excitement for me comes from like, hey, here's our next Dissia mobile game, and Riku looks like she's gonna darn near be a launch character, right? Like my guess would be this would be the second batch of characters that we're going to get. So that's why I'm excited about Riku. I don't have some weird obsession with Riku, whatever. It's just she's kind of a meme in our community, so it's kind of cool that she's like actually coming out right away, right? So that's that whole deal there. So back to this. So that's why I think that is Riku, right? Let's go back to some other images I have pulled here. So Onion Knight, I mean, I think people wouldn't really deny this as Onion Knight. But obviously Onion Knight always has a helmet on, and so they're going to replace that with the baseball cap. The big tell here too is with the sword. You can kind of see like the soft, I guess you'd call it like the hairs coming down here, but it's almost like a teardrop shape coming down from the bottom of the sword. And if we go back to our image here, we definitely are seeing that feather or teardrop shape coming down from the sword there. And it's the right type of sword, right, for Onion Knight. So I think FF3, I think that's a lock. That's definitely going to be Onion Knight. Right here, Riku, that's definitely a lock, I think, for Final Fantasy X, right? Let's look at some other characters here that I pulled up. Furion, I think Furion's another one that people won't really argue. It's a little bit more vague because, you know, he typically wears like this headscarf, but you imagine like what his hair looks like without that. And then if we look at the type of sword here, we go back to the image here. Once again, it's kind of a skinnier sword. This handle very much matches the handle that we're seeing on that sword. And once again, we would imagine, and it's not to say that this Furion couldn't be wearing something, like he could have a headband on or something for sure. But here we definitely can kind of see like a hair texture throughout. But this definitely feels like Furion's type of hair. The body type, everything, it seems to be fitting right there. So I think Furion being here, I think makes sense to me, especially to have Final Fantasy II doesn't have a lot of like really recognizable characters, so it makes sense that Furion would just be the guy they throw in there. It's not like they're going to have Guy in here, right? Like Guy probably isn't going to be one of these characters. So I think Furion, that's pretty much a good lock right there. So let's go to the next one here. So Aroha, and I think here, the only thing is like FF11, Aroha, I mean, that definitely makes sense. It's the right hairstyle. Iroha always carries like a spear or a staff type of weapon. The big thing is if we look really close here, look at this shape here at the top of this staff in this image. We go back to here. that's pretty much like these flames here. So in that image, it's just like these two flames are basically touching and creating that point. But I feel like that's definitely, we're seeing the top of her spear there. Now in this image, we can't see the blade. So if we go back here, I mean, within here, they don't show what's going on behind here. It's faded. But my guess is she is holding a spear behind her, and that would be Iroha. And this is, and you can see here, just the way that this isn't like it's full. You can tell it's like a flame curling around and it's just coming to a touch there, but it's not like this is connected into like a raindrop shape. It definitely looks like a curl of the flame. So, and then you can imagine the flames twisting around each other right here at the end of her staff or spear. So I definitely think Iroha is the pick there. Complete. And you see right here too, on this image, we do have like the flames kind of twisting around each other as well. So I think Iroha is a pretty safe bet there, right? Let's go to the next one here. So Clive. So I think this photo is really undeniable proof, because this is actually even a very similar stance. The way that he kind of holds his arm and his elbow out, the hand out in an open stance. But the big tell here is the sword. We look at the sword here, how it comes and it has this very significant kind of point right here. And if we go here on this image, I mean, this is the sword we just looked at right here. You can see it comes right to that point. And then the way we have the elbow out, the hand open grip here, I feel like this is undeniably Clive. The hairstyle fits. I think it definitely would be Clive there, right? So I think that seems pretty likely to me. But I am going to talk about, I do have a couple of just alternate ideas. Now that would depend on if they're actually not going to try to represent all 16 games. Like some of the characters would be repeats based on some of these other ideas that I have. But let's just take a look here. So I pulled up Sid from 16. Sid from 16 is undeniably one of the most popular characters from 16. I think we would all be extremely hype if Sid were here. And when I'm looking at this, I'm just going to say right now, I kind of get Sid vibes here from the quote-unquote bulkier character. Using a sword, because Sid actually uses swords, the right hair and head type there, the right body type, I kind of do get like Sid from Final Fantasy 16 here. But obviously if that was Sid, then this couldn't be Clive. But outside of Clive, I don't really know what this would be, because it could be Noctis, but I feel like this is so undeniably Clive at this point that I can't really see it as anything else. And then if this was Noctis, well, we already have Prompto. So then are we saying we can just repeat the same game? It just seems way too much of a coincidence that we have exactly 16 characters. And there are like really good fits that make it work for every game, right? But I just wanted to throw out that I kind of do get Sid vibes from this, from 16. And once again, I'm just thrown off that he has a sword and not a gun. Unless, I mean, I can zoom in on this. Is this somehow a gun? I mean, that definitely looks like a sword, right? Like I don't see anything but a sword there. I don't know, but probably I'm not denying that it's bulkier. Like it has to be bulkier, I think, based on everything here. But if you have other ideas, I would love to hear it, right? And then let's go ahead here. I pulled up Noctis just because this was my initial vibe when I first saw this picture. Before I had time to process anything, I'm like, oh man, that looks like Noctis. But the hair doesn't quite fit as much as you would think it would. Like it's not jutting out as much. But I think the reason you get Noctis vibes is because Clive here is probably wearing the type of fit that Noctis would have, right? Because Noctis FF15, they dress very casual in that game. So I think it's just because the body and the clothes fit what Noctis would wear more than anything. But yeah, this is definitely Clive here. But I just wanted to pull up a picture of Noctis. But you can see the hair is actually quite different. It's not like perfectly rounded like it looks like in that image. And the sword style definitely doesn't fit either. And then last one, I wanted to pull up Vaughn. Like, to just throw out Vaughn, because Vaughn would make sense as a Final Fantasy 12 representative. If let's say that image in the back isn't bulkier, Vaughn does use a sword. We can go back to the image here. So this, you know, is there a way that this could be Vaughn in the back? Now, the big tell to why this wouldn't be Vaughn is the hair is nothing like Vaughn's. The only thing I can think of is, once again, because we're doing this modern Tokyo vibe thing and we're wearing clothes that are just regular clothes, could they drastically change his hairstyle? Like, what if we took Vaughn, right? Let's just grab here. Let's say it was Vaughn, but his hair was just slicked back or something like that, right? Could we, in a weird way, turn this into Vaughn? I mean, the stance doesn't really have... I don't get any... I'll just say right now, I don't get any Vaughn vibes from this. I'm just trying to think of a way... Is there a way this could not be bulkier, but still be Final Fantasy 12? Oh, wait. I just thought of something kind of on the fly right now. I'm going to look up something here. Could this be, okay, hold on. My brain is a little rusty here, and now I'm clicking on weird tabs. Let me just check this. I'm going to do FF12 characters. I just came into mind, what about, it's Gabranth and then his twin brother, right? I got to look this up really quick because I'm drawing a blank on the twin brother name. But let me just look up, I want to see if it, oh, Bosch. Okay, hold on, FF12 Bosch. That's right, it was the whole, hold on, Bosch. Could that be Bosch? Hold on. Images. Could it be Bosch in the back? Because Bosch uses a sword. Could it be Bosch? I mean, the hair is definitely too long, but he does have it slicked back, right? Once again, I'm just super thrown off because it's Balthier holding a sword and he's a gun user. That's the reason why I'm kind of trying to fish for some other ideas, but Bosch just came into mind here. Let's go back here. Could the hair be slicked back? I feel like if it was long enough, we would see it behind the neck. I mean, this to me looks like a character with short hair. So, I mean, my official guess is still going to be Balthier here. But could we wildly throw out Vaughn or Bosch with like a weird hairdo because it's somebody with a sword? I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think in the comments. But once again, we'll go over, like, once again, final guess here. I think Onion Knight. I think undeniably Riku. Once again, some people are saying Pain or Yuna, but I think the claw here is just too undeniable. Like, it's too undeniable that would be Riku's claw. Not to mention the fact that, like, the initial, when you look at her in the hair, it just totally screams Riku vibes. So I'm going Riku here 100%. Also, I'm pretty sure, like, she's got a skirt on. And once again, the clothes are going to be different, so anybody could be wearing anything, but I wouldn't picture Pain as somebody who would wear a skirt. So I feel like Pain would have pants. Pain would almost have a little bit more of like a goth vibe, I think, and like wear chains and stuff like that if we're doing like the modern Tokyo thing. So yeah, undeniably Riku. The one I'm once again most iffy on is Balthier. I'm going to guess Balthier, because if you take this away and this isn't a sword, then 100% Balthier. And if Balthier did use a sword in 12, then yes, it's going to be Balthier. I'm just not as experienced with 12 to know if Balthier equips anything other than a gun. 100% Clive, 100% Iroha, and I'm pretty confident on Furion. So anyways, guys, let me know if you're excited. Once again, I know it's a ways away yet. We don't even have the game in hand. We don't know dates yet. It is still fun to have a little speculation video and talk about these characters. Squex at any time could do a reveal. We don't know if this is going to be like, you know, if they're going to release these in like batches of 2, if they're just going to drop all 6 characters at once. There's so much we don't know about the game yet. We don't know how the gacha system's going to work, things like that. I will say I did sign up for the beta. And, you know, in my previous video, I mentioned I don't use Android. People have been suggesting me just download BlueStacks. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to download it on BlueStacks. And I'm really going to hope I get in. And I would love to be able to cover this for you. I'll have to look more at the fine print of the beta. If I don't have to sign like a non-disclosure agreement or anything, if we're allowed to cover and put it on our channel, I will probably live stream like the first day that I can play it. And then try to get as many videos out on the beta as possible if I get in. Really have fingers crossed, hoping I get in on that. So anyways, guys, let me know if you're hyped for this game, what you think of these characters. If you have any other guesses, though, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.